I'm going to make up new theme music every week, folks. Hello, D here, and welcome to our big review and discussion of Loki. We have all come with glorious purpose today, but of course, joining me, a little group of the regulars. On top right here, we have from Smirking Gun Reviews, it's Rob Stone.
Also known as the god of smirking for these Loki videos. Yeah, it is awesome to be back talking about some more Marvel stuff, and this is going to be a hell of a lot of fun because Marvel is just killing it with these shows, and this one is going to be so special. I wish I might have to go back and review this myself just because it's that good. So yeah, let's not waste any time with me, and let's go down here to our Agent Corrie, who is now the mistress of Mischief.
I am. I've been turned to the dark side. I've joined with Hela and Loki, and I'm probably going to be picked up by the time cops at some point. But really excited. Love the first episode. It lived up to what I was expecting. It feels a little bit more like WandaVision in a sense of how playful they are with it. Mm-hmm. And I love seeing Loki kind of get his comeuppance from someone who can be on the same level with him in terms of wit and banter. So it's been fun.
Excellent. And of course, joining us in chat, as always, it's Silva Surfa and Deborah as well, just jumping in right now. Hello, welcome to you, and welcome to everyone joining us in the archives. Of course, we're going to be doing this every week through the run of their show. Next week, guesting with us will be Alyssa and Terry HIddleston, so that'll be a definite lively show. Be sure to join us for that. But we've got a whole bunch to get into now, so let's kind of take a moment and reflect really on the first episode. Corey, let's kick things off with you. What was your take on this episode? How were you expecting this show to sort of play out? And you know, what did you enjoy about what we got?
Well, I was expecting some hijinks because anything involving Loki always has hijinks of some kind. But I wasn't expecting them to start right from where we left off in Endgame, where Loki's stealing the Tesseract. I thought, they would assume we knew that and we would be starting on a new storyline. So that was really neat that they tied it in like that. Mm-hmm. I certainly, I don't know. I felt for Loki as soon as he was in that Time Variance Authority place. I wrote down, I'm like, this is worse than the DMV. It's terrible. And he kept saying, I know what this is. And I'm like, it's hell, right? You're going to say it's hell. Because it was horrible. You can't escape. They just rewind you in time. They control everything that you're doing. And sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yeah, you're in a place where literally bureaucracy is controlling your fate and you have no idea even what the rules are. It was, a very intimidating setup.
Yeah, and I was getting kind of like Hydra vibes almost in a way from, when they went into an alternative reality where Hydra won on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Phil was a teacher. I was kind of getting those kind of vibes with all the posters in the back that were saying things like stay in line or we'll clean your clock with the little like Miss Minute, like all happy. I'm like, okay, this is like kind of creepy. So I really felt for Loki, and I mean, obviously he's done terrible things, but I thought, this is kind of bad that he's in this situation. He has to get out somehow because he always gets out.
Sure.
I guess what I was surprised was that we actually got a kind of therapy session with him, where we started digging in about why he does what he does, and does he enjoy causing people pain, which we learn he doesn't.
Right.
So that was quite interesting. And I liked that we got to see more of an emotional side to him with his mother, because that always was a question I had, because he's so flippant about everything, right? But I always felt there's got to be, if anybody could get through to Loki, it has to be his mother, Frigga.
Sure.
And she's the one who trained him. She taught him all of his magic. So I'm wondering if he's going to try and save her. I don't know. But so that was something I liked. Yeah, and then the twist at the end, I kind of saw it coming. I won't say what it is. I'll let us get into that later.
Sure.
But it still was a cool twist. So.
Excellent. Yeah. No, very intimidating location, the Time Variance Authority. Yeah, the whole setup that was great. Rob, what was your kind of first take and major grab off of this first episode?
I was really curious at what we were going to see up front. Like, where was this story going to set us up? And going to the Time Variance Authority was just a really, really cool surprise. Like I have here in the background, I pointed out earlier to you, this is Thor 372, which is the very first appearance of the Time Variance Authority. You know, it's when you look at it a little bit, it's very of the, you know, early 80s looking kind of thing. But the way that they have it set up, where it makes me feel like the bureaucrats in Futurama, like the way that that's all just so, you know, strict, and they do not care about anything but the rules of the bureaucracy.
Right.
Just the look of it just felt so interesting. But the thing that I really loved the most, that got me the most, was that we weren't jumping all over the place, seeing all sorts of amazing things. We were getting some of the best character development that we've ever seen in the very first episode. We get to the heart of Loki, and that just really powerful stuff. Sitting there with somebody who really, Owen Wilson surprised me like crazy.
Yeah.
Because I was expecting, he's usually the wow guy.
Yeah.
But he was playing it. He was the perfect counterpart to Loki, and just finally getting to it. Somebody finally reaching in and saying, what are you about? Yeah. What is your purpose? Why do you do what you do? And that was better than any kind of like Easter egg, or, oh, we're going to go see this, or we're going to go to this dimension, and, oh, what cameo could we see, or whatever. For me, it's always about story and character, and this nailed it. Mm-hmm. It nailed it. And how uncomfortable Loki was just really facing what he's done.
Yeah.
With some stranger. That just really like sitting in the principal's office.
Oh my God. He's the vice principal. He's even worse.
And then yes, like seeing Rene Russo's character back and seeing that heart that he has, and the little boy inside that always just wanted to be a part of the family. Yeah. And instead of just having these lofty goals and posturing all the time, and I'm the god of this and that, and this is what I'm owed, we get right to the heart that he sees things about his family, and you realize that he's just this sad, lonely soul who's just still wanting acceptance from the people who are his family.
Yeah.
And I loved every freaking second of it.
Well, I think it was brilliant the way they kind of set that up too, because I mean, we, in a way, I think sort of expect it. The moment they show us that we can show glimpses of his life, I was thinking was like, he's going to be able to catch up all of his lessons in a way to where he was at Endgame. He gets to see the path of his life and the trials and tribulations. You're right, because you've got somebody that's pushing and pressing and having him sort of force in a realm where he literally has no power. He has no control. And the greatest power in the universe 5 minutes ago are now glowing paperweights in a drawer. Oh, God, I love that.
And I love that it puts Thanos in perspective. Like, we thought he was this huge, big bad. But in one scene, they're like, oh, yeah, no. I mean, he thinks he's powerful, but, he's a paperweights.
And the line, the title of it, Glorious Purpose, of course, that's his arrival in Endgame. I've come with glorious purpose. And as he just arrives here on his escape, it's the first thing he says to the three peasants. I'm sorry, but in his mind, that's how he would look. Peasants appearing to him. I have come with glorious purpose. So by the end, he sees the whole... I don't know, for the god of mischief to see the joke of his own existence, there is...
Not so funny.
The ultimate reality check.
It is, and even he has to sort of enjoy it. So yeah, the fact that he in this one episode gets to have that whole, multi-movie arc effective catch-up where he can now move on from where we have seen him change to go in these indefinite new directions that are possible. Just a brilliant first episode setup.
Yeah, a god realizing that there's something bigger than gods.
Is this the greatest power in the universe? It's a freaking monitor with lines on it. It was quite glorious. And even from the get-go, where the hunter comes up and just smacks him in the face. You're moving at 1/16, but now feeling it. We were talking last week at a previous one about the heavy and the purpose of the heavy. It's the same thing. Here's the god of mischief, and he's just smacked down and dragged off, instantly put in his place. Fine Asgardian leather, gone.
I love that robot. Just, hi, zap.
The quick little existential question of, you mean there are people that don't know they're robots?
Oh my God.
What about Vision?
That moment was so great. The comedic timing that you had there of like, what do you mean? There's a lot of people walking around that don't know that they're robots, and then to just think for a second, oh man.
Yeah.
Like that was the beat that he took was some of that was such great timing.
No, it was perfect. And then we get to the waiting room and the ticket, and you can look back to the greatest movie ever made and go back to Citizen Kane for lessons on camera placement. And this gives you a beautiful shot of what happens when you put a low camera up, you can't see the floor, and you just get the ceiling. It's oppressive. It's pushing down all the time. And the repeating just circles that kind of kitsch 70s feel on it all.
Very Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Very much so. Very much so. Yeah, the colorways and stuff they've done on this. I mean, really, it was a glorious setup from the beginning. It really told the story. I mean, even before Miss Minute shows up as the creepiest potential cartoon character.
Mascot.
You're a variant. You must be saying, I don't belong here right now.
I wonder if she's, if she knows the guy from the Jurassic Park cartoon.
Oh yeah, he and the little DNA molecule. Yeah, be definitely hanging out. Just want to make a little note here in the chat. Of course, Bill Casey showing up. Really like the character examination. Yeah, we'll be diving more into that. Deborah's mentioning the daddy issues for sure. See, Bill's also especially enjoyed seeing Loki in the situation because he's so obsessed with being in control. Hence the big realization he gets at the end. And Silva, we were mentioning that before, just before we came on, that Silva Strong, Tara Strong is the voice of Miss Minutes, who is laundry list of credits behind her. Harley Quinn being one of the bigger ones.
Teen Titans.
Teen Titans, definitely going on. So, so we get Owen Wilson jumping in the trial where you have to plead guilty to something you don't even know.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you made a wrong choice that somebody doesn't like, and now you're whisked away to plead guilty to be. talk about being stuck at the whim of a bureaucracy.
And the options they give, it's like, it might be that you just caused an entire like uprise among the world or something, or you were simply late for work. I'm like,
who knows what poor decision you made that suddenly disrupted all of the flow, the entire flow of time.
and
Yes.
then the fact that their job is to kill or let you live, and it's basically your life to them is just another job. It's another day at the office. Like that one guy was dusted.
You're a stamp on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Well, that's my question is there any other choice? Guilty or innocent? Well, if you say you're innocent, then they just tell you, no, you're not, you're guilty. And if you're guilty, then reset is definitely the kill thing, right? Owen Wilson totally says that when he's like, no, that was the kill room. This is the room we're going to talk in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's any other option.
Yeah, they didn't get into what reset actually was. But
Did it
yeah,
just like reset you in time to 5 minutes before you made that bad decision? Or are you gone? Like, bye-bye. Because wouldn't that affect the universe and future? If you just
Well, they were talking about when they were bringing the Infinity Stones back, right? They were just going to place them right back the moment they were taken.
Okay. Well, this is a good moment to do a little sidestep and talk about, and we should only do it briefly. I would probably recommend not diving too deep into the reads on this to figure it out. But in our little cartoon video, they have the path of time, and they give you a little Back to the Future time variation divergence, and you make your choice. Then they bring it off, and they set off their little reset bombs, which our perpetrator, again, we'll talk about who that is later, is taking from the hunter groups when he kills them. And this apparently destroys the alternate timeline and allows the main one to go. So what does that do? Does that move everyone back 5 minutes? Does it just make everyone forget, kind of like a blinker once they remove the thing? Is the old version of Loki now suddenly reappear in that timeline?
Don't worry, you won't remember any of this. Click.
Yeah, I would suggest we probably not go too much in the woods. We'll simply say that setting off the bomb gets rid of the alternate timeline. They take the variant, and everything moves on as it is. The other person is now in the correct timeline. We'll just timey-wimey, wibble-wobby and say that that's what the bomb does, is it fixes it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's probably as far as we're going to get in with that kind of concept. And yeah, again, do they then wipe your memory and put you back where you were afterwards? That's not what they implied with the constant, again, the guy without the ticket. Oh, you made a wrong choice and we disintegrate you.
Yeah, I was a little like, did they just straight up skip the trial process for that guy and he's just done? Like
Murdered.
He didn't. He called him Buckethead, and that was it.
It's really all about when you get murdered. Do you get murdered straight away, or do you go through the process and then are murdered? I think that seems to really be the only concern. Is at what point does the variant get?
Yeah.
Okay, so we get Owen Wilson, our agent Moebius, who I will completely agree. Every time we see him, my wife is also like 98% excited, 2% scared, or maybe it's 2% excited, 98% scared. You just don't know. From Armageddon, always where I remember him from. But he was awesome in this. Yeah. He was perfect. He was straight on. Little bit of a humor, little bit of condescension, a lot of heart. And I think if he didn't play the character that way, I don't think we'd get nearly the same kind of performance or energy back and forth. Because he does. He seems to really want to get to the heart of who Loki is. Does
But
he?
why?
Okay. Well, why do you think? I mean, I'll let you lead
Well, I mean,
with
he's
that.
obviously he's working him because he says, like who he's after, right? I don't want to get too far into that, but like, I think he's trying to understand his prey, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So like, if I can figure out who you are now, maybe I can fix this situation. I can if I understand my prey more, then maybe I can, its weaknesses. Maybe I can figure out how to stop it.
So you think it's really more of he's using Loki more than?
Well, these people were created by the Timekeepers. They don't think like us.
Okay.
They don't know, what I mean? Like the one guy didn't even know what a fish was. So they're operating.
Casey's my hero, by the way.
And so, yeah, I'm sure that and his job might be to be concerned, but to get answers the way he wants to get them. Now, I'm not saying that he's being disingenuous. I just mean that they're not human. They don't, you know what I mean? Like we see Owen Wilson, but these are constructs, really, in my opinion. Like, yeah, they can be killed, but like,
okay,
there's something else. There's something else beyond us, So I just don't think that he's completely, as I think we're humanizing him a little too much, but that I don't mean that to sound cold. I think his performance is great. I think he's doing exactly what that character needs to be. But at the same time, I feel like he's also the kind of guy who would make a quick decision at the same time to like go the opposite way with Loki.
Okay. Well, I think we need to kind of jump ahead and just throw out the point here, because I think it does play into what you're saying is the reveal, of course, at the end, which you all know, is that they are pursuing another variant of Loki. So by learning, by having this version of Loki, he could learn his prey and thus know how a better way to do that. I totally get that. If you really want to get warpy, it could be that variant is the future version of this Loki.
That's another thought I had.
See, and I assumed that he was trying to figure out like the earlier version of Loki, this version of Loki, whether he could trust him and if he can work with him to bring down the other version of Loki that's really gone off the rails.
Sure.
Because who better to take down a villain than the villain itself?
Okay. Now, I'm going to say, as always, you guys know I'm a sucker for redemption stories. So I like the concept that Owen Wilson that the Moebius sees what is the good side of Loki. He's seen, again, he's watched the timeline. He's seen where he can go. He can see where he is evolved. And maybe the version that they're chasing is an earlier one, is the one that won the war and went on to try and rule and do all of these other things, or some, again, earlier twisted version of Loki. Maybe they'll go crazy and this is actually female Loki that we're after, that went more on Hela's side than Odin's, which could be kind of interesting. But yeah, I think that's kind of the fun thing about it, is we don't know where they're going to go. But again, I like the idea that you could have a good version, a version of Loki versus an evil version of Loki, and to see which is the better one. I think from a Tom Hiddleston acting standpoint, trying to prove the good one is better or the evil one is better, I would watch that. Just the two of them on screen debating it.
So much fun for an actor to step into two different roles of the same character, two different like versions, right? The thing I found so sad was when they were having that sort of therapy session, which I'm like, oh, well, Winter Soldier was Bucky's therapy session. And the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So now we're giving Loki a therapy session.
Sure. That's what series are for. It's the character work that like Rob was talking about. These are the times where you can spend a whole hour with two guys sitting and talking through something out in order to move on to the big action sequences and everything else later on.
And it's not enough just for them to want to take over the world. It's nice that he even makes Loki realize that sort of goal of ruling, then what? What after that? Like, there's got to be something more than you want. But what I thought was kind of the saddest moment is when Moebius says, you weren't born to be king. You were born to cause pain and suffering and death. Because I saw a reflection of the earlier Odin in that. He was like, you will never be king, and then Loki, he's realizing he was created so that others can achieve their best version of themselves.
Yes.
And so it's like basically his only purpose is to be the villain in the story. And I'm like, that is so sad and messed up because, it's kind of like they lived happily ever after. Yeah, but what happened to the Wicked Witch, or what happened to the, the wolf, or
yes.
So even though he has goals and aspirations, which might be, perverted and messed up, he has family. He has a mother who loves him. His father, we can clearly see, does love him, even though it's in a sort of messed up way. And yet his only purpose in life is to play the villain. And he can't get out of that role. And I feel like that was just it was so sad. And I'm hoping we can have a bit of a redemption arc where Moebius can give him a way to have a different story in the timeline.
Well, I think in a way that they've done, I think that was the nice thing about, the big therapy session where he gets to sit down and watch his own future and see how it plays out. And in a way, he gets what he wanted. He gets the connection with his father. He gets the connection with his brother. He gets the respect. He gets the appreciation. He dies a heroic death, killed by the very person that sent him on this whole arc to begin with, and cast away in some useless. I mean, there is both a wondrousness and such a severe tragedy to his character and to that arc. And I think the fact that he can emotionally take that in and at the end just sort of laugh it off.
Is it manic? Or is he has he dealt with it, or is he losing his marbles now? Like, what's going on there?
Well, again, I think it's the same type of thing. He's seeing the joke of his pursuits, how hollow and empty and worthless, and that when he again does really connects, those are the moments that are worth something, and the other stuff ends up just being what costs him. I think he does. I think he sees the joke in it. It doesn't mean that he knows instantly where to go and that he is now a hero and will go. I think we get to see the struggle and the back and forth through this, where he gets to look for his own redemptive arc. That's what he's seeing as this opportunity in this place that's beyond above else. I also want to mention the chat, the Rich Room jumping in. How you doing, Rich? Asking about the quantum realm. What does the quantum realm mean for the TVA?
Good question.
I would think much like the Infinity Stones, it is above. The TVA it deals with the space-time continuum itself. It is above, beyond, separate. You might as well ask what the ether is for them. It's another thing. I'm sure it's something they could easily jump and misture around. The quantum realm is a way to move between those time dimensions, those timelines, I believe. But outside of that, I don't think it would have that much of an effect. That saying, they could change that rule next week, and I would be completely wrong, and I will go ahead and admit that right now.
Another thing I thought was really cool with the kind of psychoanalysis that they were doing is that Loki's speech or lie that he gives when he first shows up, you crave subjugation, your life is lost in all these choices and meaningless, and just follow me and I'll tell you what to do type thing. Ironically, that is exactly how he feels about life himself.
Sure.
So it's like, what you want to control things, but yet you see choice as completely useless. And at first he's struggling against that. Like, he keeps insisting has free will and choice. And he says, I live whatever path I choose. And Moebius says, sure you do. It's like a parent with a child, right? I make my own decisions. Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah, of course. Exactly.
And some of the great lines, like, trust is for children and dogs. There's only one person you could trust. Oh, yourself. Of course. But again, all of this is just a smokescreen of him trying to keep away the knowledge that he's really wounded and, trying to find a place.
Well, I think that was, again, one of those great, before and after. We give you the hint before and then the realization later on. The whole link of, I know what this place is. It's the illusion, the pain inflicted on the weak in order to, God, I wish I had wrote the whole thing down.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. It's what he accuses the Time Authority as being this complete joke. And by the end, he realizes, no, that's why he does his things. What he does, it's to support the illusion of a strong man who feels out of control.
Yeah. He says choice is problematic, yet he's complaining about God's being above him and determining his timeline for him. So it's like, I want to rule the world, but you can't rule me.
Yeah. Well, again, and that's the thing. And I think that's the great thing that Moebius did is just like, oh, okay. Well, yeah, but that's everyone else, but not you, right? You're separate. You're different. And then whittling that down into the fact that, no, you know exactly who you are and why you do these things. It was a beautiful arc within that. You guys get any other thoughts on the whole discussion here? We also got a lot of kind of hints of things to come that I definitely want to kind of jump and get into. So are there any points on those, the character analysis or those work that want to jump in now?
I do want to mention just that, I mean, it was a little out of place, but I'm glad they put it in there, was the fact that Loki was DB Cooper. And I didn't understand where they were going with it until even when she said Mr. Cooper, I was like, oh, he could be going by any name. I didn't really think about the time period or anything. And just he did it because he lost a bet with Thor. It's just like, what have they been? There are adventures, that we don't even know about. That this sounds hilarious. I want to see that whole.
Oh,
that
yes.
Should be a little mini movie of Heimdall and Thor and Loki, make a bet, and like he loses a bet to Thor, and he has to rob a whole bunch of places on Midgard, and that was so fantastic, and just the leap out of the back of the plane, and just it was so cool. It felt like we were watching a different show, but it was so cool. The wink and everything, and we think we know where it's going, and it's like, holy crap! That's the stuff I thought we were going to be getting at the beginning of this series, was a lot of just jumping around.
Right.
This little moment was such a sweet little, just bizarre gem that I just loved it so much. Another thing I want to bring up, though, is they talk about Coulson.
Yes, that was one we were going to get to.
They talk about Coulson, and how he says, oh, well, not a lot of solace for a dead man. But the only thing I really need to talk about is, will somebody please tell somebody that Phil's still
Yes.
Hasn't there been enough time? It's been almost 10 years since the first Avengers. Can somebody clue somebody in? And this is not because we talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on here or on my channel or wherever. It's time for the world to know what happened with Phil. Because it just doesn't seem right to the character to just keep throwing him in when they want to just add on, throw this in Loki's face. We need to bring back Phil to the MCU, man.
Well, see, I'm actually really encouraged by this. The fact that it is the first thing that he brings up. Oh, yeah, you said that son before to a dead guy. Oh, yeah, Phil Coulson. I was like, what? they show the death scene. They mention the fact that, oh yeah, and didn't the Avengers get together specifically to avenge his death? They make it again. It's what is the rule? If you show a gun in the first act, it better be used by the end of the second or by the third. You know, you have to have that. The fact that, and look, I have a history of being very hopeful about the return of Phil to the MCU. If any of you are interested, I did put a link down in the description below of my previous video when I thought that Tony Stark was going to bring him back in Infinity War. Look, I will tell you, everything I said in there was wrong, of course, but the core of it as being a redemptive arc could still be something that plays into Loki. If he goes in, magics him out, and says, shh, they need to believe you're dead in order to beat my ass. You know, this could be another variant. It could be a way of pulling Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in. It could be a way of saying these are alternate universes and alternate timelines. I mean, even by the end of season 7 of AOS, they were jumping timelines and through the quantum realm and all of this stuff. So we're also going to get into the multiverse stuff in a minute here. But I again, like I said, I am hopeful that they are setting up a way that Loki might be able to undo his own mistakes by the very end. And I would love where they could potentially go with that.
Yeah.
So, okay. The multiverse. Obviously, this leads us very nicely into that discussion. We do get a nice little discussion of the multiverse and multiple timelines and a multiverse war in order to create the one sacred timeline. With all of these, we have begun to lay out where I think stage 4 is going, where our next big major crossover is, who our next big baddie is, whose face was all over this episode. And that is Kang the Conqueror. A future Time Lord version. It was a descendant of Reed Richards, if I remember my lore correctly. He's already been cast. I can't remember the actor's name. He is going to be the next big bad. But we see him as one of the Time the Time Lord. I keep calling it Time Lords, and I'm thinking of Doctor Who. But the Timekeepers. He's in the cartoon video. He's the one in the middle with the little arc, the blue face. He is the face right behind the judge.
Okay.
In the big thing at the end credits, there's even one big shot of him right there. So we are already establishing Kang's existence. Whether we go any further with him or we're just dropping hints now. But as a time traveler, and we're dealing with the Time Variance Authority and all that could imply. Devontae, thank you. Kang is a descendant of Reed Richards. I just love these little hints and things that are going on. I mean, are you guys excited about Kang? Do you know a lot about Kang? I know, Rob, you've got a pretty deep comic knowledge.
Yeah, he's been used kind of sparingly, but when they do use him, it's been really interesting. He just did there's a Peter David book called Symbiote Spider-Man where Kang teamed up with a symbiote, Peter Parker, Rocket Raccoon, and Monica Rambeau. And it was a pretty dope comic. I think he was also doing some stuff with a failed book called Exiles. But that's really interesting because, yeah, I mean, seeing him there, they're hinting at it, but when will we see it? Will it be in this? Is it just like Thanos? Just, we're just laying out the breadcrumbs right now. We're hinting at little things, and where he'll actually be placed remains to be seen to me.
Yeah. Rena Dietrich in the chat mentioning Jonathan Majors. Thank you, Rena. Has been cast as Kang
from Lovecraft country.
Yes. So, and he was cast after they shot this, but I think the cartoon version of him does sort of look like a cartoon version of Jonathan Majors. So they might have done some of the post after he was. So I don't think that necessarily we'll see him in this. I think they might want to wait for that reveal for a film. But I think that they will happily play little droplets and hints around here.
What I also just want to briefly mention is how we've got somebody that's making this stuff. We're in really good hands as far as somebody who knows the multiverse stuff, because Michael Waldron, who is the creator of this, is big on Rick and Morty. He's the producer on that show, and I'm sure he's also writing this, and he's writing, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness.
Right.
So we've got somebody here that is, if you watch Rick and Morty, there is so much going on that show as far as multiverse stuff.
Oh, it's all over the place.
You needed somebody who could handle all that kind of all the threads that you're going to create. And I think that that's excellent by the people who decided to make this way, where we're all setting up. It makes me have more faith in where we're headed in Phase 4, because Kevin Feige may be the guy who gets things done and sets things up, but like the people that you get to make this stuff shows that they're still hiring the right people most of the time to create these worlds.
Yeah.
And if we don't have that, then it fails. You can have the best casting, but if you don't get the right people making these movies, then they will fall apart. And I think that that's really, really interesting, that they really found some really interesting people to tackle this stuff.
Right. Bill Casey in the chat mentioning for a possible Chekhov's gun, they said without the TVA protecting the time stream, there'd be a multiversal war. It would be madness, I believe, is the line following up. So yeah, we get the multiverse of madness, which was always thinking just Doctor Strange doing strange universe jumping stuff. If we're doing like time stream jumping as well as multiverse, what is it? Scarlet Witch we know to be a big character in the next Doctor Strange movie. Yeah. It was in the series. We had Nexus brought up, repeated again. Yeah. Here, we know that as a Nexus being, the Scarlet Witch can travel between timelines and those dimensions easily without being affected as much. So if I couldn't have been more excited about the craziness they could be bringing us, this just has opened the door into the ultimate realm of possibilities in my mind.
And I know that we keep thinking we're going to see this character eventually, and we will. But they when they went to France in 1549 and they talked to the kid there, they said, "Who did this?" And he said, "The devil."
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now again, that's probably they tease us with Mephisto possibly here. The devil could mean anything to a kid that's in France 1549. It could be anybody. Yes. But also, go ahead, Corey.
I was just going to say it could be Loki with his helmet with the horns.
Yeah.
That's true.
Because he said the devil comes bearing gifts, and he has that weird gum that that I've never seen before. Like, what does it say? Kablooey?
Kablooey, yeah. I think it's raspberry flavor.
So yeah, I mean, it could very well be. I'm still just. I feel like I'm a conspiracy theorist on when we're going to finally see Mephisto. One of these little tidbits is I'm going to be right, and all the times I'm going to be wrong, I'll just ignore when I'm right the one time.
Sure, of course. All right. Now, the other thing with the whole multiverse of madness that they lie in has gotten me very excited. And apparently it's also struck a chord on the net because I saw it popping up on Twitter feeds. I saw it popping up in little stories. And for people that have watched the channel for a while, there has been a question brought up about how I think X-Men is going to be brought into the MCU. And to me, they answered that in phase when they talked about their multiversal war. I have long suspected that Secret War will be the introduction of the X-Men, and they will do that by taking all of these multiple timelines and multiverses and crunching them together to have their big battle verse. The fact that they are already talking about multiversal wars in order to compress into the one sacred timeline. Let's be clear. This is time. So a war that happens with characters today could still have happened 10,000 years ago, depending on where in time this all happened. So, you know, the beginning, cause and effect don't necessarily go in the same order in these things. But it is a wonderful way where they could take all of these characters that either haven't been introduced. There's a way you can take mutants and smash their whole history into the MCU, because you take this world, you take this timeline, you take these characters, you bring old Captain America, you have Batman back, you bring the Powerpuff Girls over. I know I'm getting crazy on this, but you can take these different versions. You could have the dead Loki. You could have Coulson come back from an alternate timeline, have the war, and then smush it all together. And now you've got a whole new MCU timeline where you can bring back people you want. You can introduce new characters. You could. In a way, it's like the Flashpoint section for DC. It would allow them to reclean up their timelines and stories. And this lays the groundwork for all of that.
Yeah. And I immediately started thinking about what Fitz said about time, you know, when they were talking about that. And yes, we talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a lot here. To anybody who doesn't understand why we keep jumping to our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. stories. You know, when he's describing
what you're talking about
here, it's just, I flashed right to it. Yeah. And yeah, I thought it was really interesting them saying, you know, all this time ago that there was a great multiversal war. And I'm like, yeah. And in time, in this place, that doesn't matter when they say it happened.
Yes.
It happened. It just doesn't matter. To them, it's not, it's all happening at once.
Relative. It's all relative.
Yes. So it's like, and that's a thought that's been plaguing my mind a lot lately. Because I'm like, well, you know, if you think about it like that, I'm already dead. You know. No. Time warpy stuff can get. No, I don't. I think too much about this stuff sometimes.
By the way, I don't have obviously a Loki poster here. What I threw up was for FX's Legion. If any of you watching have not seen this show and timey-wimey mental madness is your kind of thing, season 1 in my mind is a perfect season. The second 2 seasons, the whole show is awesome, but it is so worth checking out if you haven't. It was on FX, which means you can find it on Hulu, which you probably got with your package that gave you your Disney Plus. So you probably already have access to it.
Yeah, if you haven't watched Legion and you're an MCU fan or a Marvel fan, you're doing yourself a huge disservice if you have not watched it.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable filmmaking.
Noah Hawley, the guy behind it, who also did the Fargo series, which again is freaking astounding. So
Pushing Daisies.
I love everything that guy has seen.
Yeah,
has done. All right. Well, let's see. Are there any other big things? I've got a few small little stuff. The greatest power in the universe is a monitor with timelines on it. That was awesome. I think one of the other things that gave a real impression to the TVA is the fact that color palette is the same everywhere. It made every room look like just a different version of the same box. Yeah.
So much orange. Oh.
Yeah, I think it was a perfect thing. Yeah, and the 70s, I love when they do that kind of retro styling for future stuff. They found a real nice way to do that. Our Infinity Stones as paperweights. I did a count. We had in the little box 4 red stones, 4 ether stones, 4 time stones, 3 power stones, a space stone, and a reality stone. And then outside of the box, spilling over the edge, because of course they're so common, we also had 2 more time stones, a ether, and a reality stone.
And what
Loki picks up a time stone. We don't see him put it back.
I didn't see him put it back either. He could easily have dropped it, but you're right. Whenever we see things and don't see it go into completion, he was thinking about his mom.
Yeah.
That would be useful. Also, Strange does need one. He could drop it off when he's done with it. You need one for the Eye of Agamotto.
This also makes me think about, like, during this whole thing, he gets the Tesseract, which is the space stone, right?
Yeah.
And Steve's mission was to put all the stones back, but he didn't have the space stone. So how did it get put back?
No, that's why he went further back in time, into the 70s, and Stark in order to steal the one out of S.H.I.E.L.D. And that's when he saw Peggy.
That's right.
So that's the one that he ended up having to return.
Right.
This was the one that just disappeared, which obviously has ended up as a paperweight in the Time Variance Authority.
Oh, man. One thing about like the Cooper thing.
Yeah.
Is that it indicates or sets up that Loki has been on Earth before. So before he invaded with the Avengers, he had been to Earth before. So I wonder if that's why he keeps wanting to take over Midgard. Like maybe he's been there a number of times.
Oh, sure. To me, this plays into what I think Rod sort of alluded to. I would love to see like the early play games of Loki and Thor, where they're egging each other on to go do things, head down to Midgard and get this. Oh, I bet you can't do that. Okay, now I want you to go save this village. Or, it could be any type of thing where the two of them are just, Earthlings are just the pawns amongst their brotherly games. I think would be hilarious to see.
Yeah, and also interesting to see how Thor's opinion changes, because then he has that line where he tells Loki, a throne would suit you ill, brother. You mean to rule them. To rule is to like protect, and he becomes very like protective and careful about Midgardians suddenly, which would be a big shift if we see them earlier just treating it as a game. A few things that I noticed that were kind of neat when we open with that Avengers Endgame scene and Hulk, shows up and whatnot. At the very end, when it kind of dissolves away, you hear Thor going, "Where's Loki? Loki." So that's new. That wasn't in the film.
Right.
So that's neat that they put that in. And then when it changed to a scene of that desert planet, or a desert, right?
It's the Gobi Desert, yeah.
Gobi Desert in Mongolia, right? I assume I was just like, it's a desert planet, Tatooine, and taking notes, right? But we see the drip of like water hanging off of the rock. Mm-hmm. That reminded me of the story with Loki where there was like a snake dripping poison onto him.
Okay.
So just like a connection in my mind, I thought of that because I wasn't sure if they were going to go that direction with the Loki story. What else? Oh, they talked about melting robots. That machine can melt a robot. So does that include Vision?
I don't think we're going to have to worry about that. But
yeah, that's that would be an interesting thing. He would also know that he was a synthetic organism, but he might have a soul. He would actually have a philosophical discussion with the guy before stepping into the machine.
Yeah. He'd be having the ship discussion about except
Yeah.
it will be tweaked for the soul.
I was going to say, which of course now I also want to see.
Yeah.
I mentioned it before. Corey is my new hero. I love him. The fact that he doesn't know what a fish is. I just want to know what it is I'm being threatened with before I comply.
I was going to say, thank you. Really? That's how you feel about me? Oh, no, it's the character.
I had the subtitles on because I like to make sure I if I'm writing down notes or everything, I want to make sure I get all the words right. And there was a moment there in that first moment when the guy's being brought out going, you know who my father is? He's the head of Goldman Sachs. And it said scroll variant.
There is a scroll at the desk. You see him very briefly.
Yep.
Just before he gets let off, and before I think they throw the Tesseract at Casey behind the desk. But yeah, you can actually see a scroll variant there, which I thought was totally cool. Also.
So is that referencing future scroll invasion storyline?
Could be
invasion.
Could be doing character bits. I love the fact that in the post credits they've got one of those pamphlets that says "So you're a variant," and I just thought there needs to be. Is there a cap video for that? So you're a variant. You made a choice, something you weren't supposed to, and now you got to pay.
Behavior, you'll have your clock cleaned and everything here watched and monitored. I'm like, okay, this is creepy.
And I know we talked about it in length about the film, but I want to just say that it was such a great use of. It was all the exposition we needed right there in that film.
Oh yeah.
So that way we could. That was the way we could have all the character, was so that nobody was having to tell everybody to catch up. Like this is why this and this is why that throughout the entire episode. It was that little moment so that we were able to get all the great character work, and that was another genius move on their part.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It summates all the story very quick. It clears it out of the way and lets us get into the other stuff. Plus, again, they get to drop all of their little Easter egg and hints and stuff that we as fans will now pour over for the next week until the next episode comes. Did you guys spot Peggy Carter?
I missed that.
Okay.
I'm not a true fan.
There is, again, it's popped up on the net. I saw it at first when Loki first steals the time thing and he pops up in the hallway. He looks and steps back, a door opens, and a girl and a hunter walk out across screen very briefly. You can barely see, but there's a lot of people wondering if that's Peggy Carter being brought in for dealing with the Steve Rogers variant. One, I don't see why Peggy would be being brought in. It does have a small look to her, and it does have that. There's an outfit that actually matches very similar to one that Peggy Carter has worn. Somebody had paired things up. You guys can jump on the net, just look up Peggy Carter and Glorious Purpose in this episode. There's a couple of small bits. You can make your choice if you want. I just thought, since we got an obvious Phil Coulson reference in this, the fact that there is an idea, is that Peggy? Because of the styling, I think it's just someone else in the office. I think it's just someone doing work. But I love the idea that there are so many people that are like, it was Peggy!
See, we need another Agent Carter show.
Exactly. Magneto Brown is mentioning we need another season of Legion, and we need another season of Peggy Carter, which we discussed last week in our season 2 discussion.
One thing that I liked, it made me laugh, is when they're having the discussion about the ticket, all I could think about was Indiana Jones and the Holy Grail, where he's like, no ticket! And punch the guy up, because Loki's just panicking trying to find his ticket. Like, I've got my ticket.
That guy's reaction through the whole episode was so funny of him. Just, I don't want to take the ticket. Faced with not having a ticket, I asked him for the ticket. He wouldn't give me the ticket. Like, now he's arguing for the ticket. It is so human, that moment of just the belligerent person who says no and then tries to backtrack that they're never at fault kind of person. I also really loved what I imagine is going to be on some t-shirts on like TeePublic or Redbubble for the Time Variance Authority, where it's for all time, always, like at the end of the film strip. I love that. That was so cool. Like their their little mantra.
Oh yeah, you guys, there's going to be TVA t-shirts all over the place. If not already in the stores by next week. You're going to see coming. Amazon's going to be making money.
There's going to be jumpsuits with the TVA on it.
And I will pay money for it. I'm going to tell you right now, I will be one of those people paying money for it.
Probably.
They very much looked like, prison wear. So I'll pass. I'll pass.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're orange, so.
It is. It's not a nice color.
My question is, we know that these Minutemen are being murdered. We know by the end of this season, it's assumed to be Loki. We haven't actually seen him do it.
Right.
How is he knowing where they're appearing before they appear, or where they're going to go before they go? How is he figuring that out?
Technology. He's got a device or thing he took. Yeah, it was interesting. The fact that they mention it's another version of you, and then we get that tail scene where the hunters get burned, but we still purposely don't see who's doing it.
Yeah.
Which, yes, I do find that really interesting.
Yeah.
Because again, we're dealing with a god of mischief. Of course, we're going to be fooled by all sorts of things. Is the Time Authority lying? Are they being fooled by someone? Is it Mephisto? Is it, are they hinting towards someone else? I don't know. I mean, we could freely speculate. The way these shows have gone, it's Loki, or it's female Loki, or something like that, or Thorky, which is a blend of Thor and Loki.
Yeah, I feel like as long as we just say right now that it's Loki, then whatever else it is, if it's not, we'll be like, oh, cool.
Right.
So that's why I feel like the speculation about it's great to think about it, but at the end of the day, they've been giving us they've been showing us whatever they've been telling us, is pretty much what they give us. Mm-hmm. They don't really surprise us too much on those kind of things. They like to make us talk, and here that's what we're doing. I'd be surprised if it is anybody but Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah, no. I agree. The way the shows have gone, they've hinted at larger things, but they haven't really given us that. Devontae Smith, just want to mention here in the chat mentions, feels like the MCU is both setting up Krang time travel and the Universal Kang with time travel and the Universal Church of Truth, which is the evil Adam Warlock. And yeah, we've got the hints of Adam Warlock in Guardian of the Galaxy Part 2. So again, at this point, they have realized that we appreciate the superhero. We just want them to go full weird. Okay, Ditko, Kirby, all the way. Get me the weird machines and the strange multiverse. When we get to the multiverse of madness, we want to see all of the weird, strange upside down places and going ins and outs of portals across. Go fully crazy. I think that's what people want now. I think we're ready for it.
I'm going to wait until I actually see that it's Loki doing all this. Then when I see it, then I'll be like, okay.
And, Bill Casey...
I'm not holding my breath.
Bill Casey in the chat a couple of times here has brought up something that, that Loki bamboozling everybody by the end of this and being the head of the TVA by the end of this is something that I could see happening.
Yeah.
And even be the very last shot of, I've finally become the master of something, even if it's, temporary or whatever. I could see that.
Well, and it gives us this, he's always wanted to be in charge of the greatest power of the universe. If he's like the head of that department there in front of that machine in case he is working for, again, he effectively has hit that, which I guess could be, in a way, that shot that we see in the pictures of him with his arms out and the big helmet on, laughing. Looks like he's in the middle of the TVA. Is that our Loki, variant Loki?
Will we ever find out?
Yeah.
Well,
how many
I think
Lokis are there?
In the way that they did the titles with the different version, different kinds of letters for Loki, meaning could this be different versions? How many different versions of this, person are we going to be seeing?
They could totally Agent Smith Loki.
Yep.
And now you just got 100 different Lokis running around.
That would be crazy.
Would that be too? Is there too many Lokis that we could have?
Well, I mean, he, since we've already seen him multiply in his illusions, we've seen it before.
Would they work together or try to undo each other?
Oh, they would try to undo each other immediately.
Just don't put Loki in the same room with like the multiplying woman from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the multiplier man, and then it's just going to be total confusion.
There you go. That seems like the perfect place to end things here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us with this big episode 1 discussion. It was a blast. Really appreciate everyone showing up in the chat. Got a nice group today. Bill Casey showing up, Magneto Brown, Silver Surfer, as always, Devontae Smith, Doc Moore jumping in. Doc, always good to see you. Rena Dietrich, the Rich Room, got his chance to pop in here for a little while. I'm sure I'm missing. I'm trying to scroll and catch everyone. Devra was in here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us live. Everyone joining us in the archives. Really appreciate you checking things out. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy what you're seeing. We're going to be doing this show with a nice rotating group of guests throughout the entire run of this season. And then coming up after that, we'll be heading into a big, season 4 discussion of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So lots of fun stuff to come your way. Want to be sure our fun guests get a chance to tell you where you can find them. Corey, why don't you let people know where they can find our Mistress of Mischief?
Yes, everywhere, practically. I duplicate. But you can find me on YouTube at Soothing Scriptures, and I have a writing channel. My author page is CL Shoemaker on Facebook. So you can check out either of those. And yeah, come swing by and say hi.
Beautiful, beautiful. And of course, the Review Meister extraordinaire, covering all the shows. Plus, he's got a Let's Play channel on Twitch there. The God of Smirking, Rob Stone. Where can people find you? As I'm just saying right now.
Yes, you can find me on my channel, Smirking Gun Reviews, where we are only 20 subscribers away from 2,000 right now. So if you're new, come on by and subscribe to the channel. I don't know. If you feel like it. We're just finishing up Handmaid's Tale. We just finished Mayor of Easttown and Underground Railroad. We're always making content all the time. We're going to be doing reviews for Kevin Can Go F Himself, amongst other cool things coming out. We're doing all sorts of stuff on the channel. So come on by, check out the plethora of reviews that we got up there. And definitely come back here so you can watch us talk about Loki and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and later on, who knows what. We've got so much to do on this channel and everywhere else. So I'm probably talking too much and I'm forgetting things, but I also want to say that there was two other people in the chat, Sarah, CJ, and Lily Mack were also here.
Thank you.
Mercenary X84.
Beautiful. This is why we've got a good group, is to help back up all the things that I miss,
And if your coffee pot at work says fresh 800 BC, maybe don't drink from it.
Well, BC on a date usually is a sign. Yeah, definitely want to avoid that. Anyway, thanks you all so much. We will catch you next time and have an awesome day. Take care. Bye-bye.